to an I-Team update. A former juvenile court judge in Orleans Parish will be in federal court tomorrow. David Bell is being sued by two former employees who claim he harassed them and created a hostile work environment. More than 4 years ago, he was forced off the bench by the Louisiana Supreme Court. Bell avoided disciplinary action from the High Court, but he didn't escape being named in a federal civil lawsuit. WDSU I-Team reporter Travers Mackle has more on how Bell is collecting a state pension and still allowed to practice law.
Back in 2010, the WDSU I-Team broke the news that the state Supreme Court was investigating then Orleans Parish Juvenile Court Judge David Bell and his conduct. Days later, Bell took a leave of absence. During that time, the High Court interviewed witnesses, courthouse employees, who used words like intimidating and uncomfortable when asked about the atmosphere fostered by Judge Bell. Some expressed fear of backlash should they speak up. Judge Ernestine Gray, who succeeded Bell as chief judge, told investigators, quote, "It is the perception, whether it's true or not, that there are unethical, perhaps illegal things going on in the court, and they are related to Judge Bell." The Louisiana Judiciary Commission, an extension of the Supreme Court, recommended the immediate disqualification of Judge Bell and sought to ban him from the courthouse itself. In the summer of 2010, Bell resigned rather than challenge the allegations, which generated intense media scrutiny when justices unsealed the Judiciary Commission report. After he stepped down, Bell's lawyer said the case against him was closed and that his client intended to work as an attorney. But two people who worked for Bell at the courthouse wanted more, so they took legal action, filing a civil lawsuit here in federal court seeking damages. We spoke earlier this year with one of the two plaintiffs on the lawsuit, Tammy Griffith.
It was very uncomfortable to, always be on edge every time I had to be in his company, especially if I was going to be in his company alone.
Griffith told investigators with the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission that Bell, quote, continuously made sexually explicit statements to her and, on one occasion, asked her to, quote, go to his office and take off her skirt. That request allegedly followed a discussion regarding Griffith's salary. The EEOC gave Griffith the go-ahead to take civil action, and in a federal lawsuit, Griffith accused Bell of sexual harassment. She's seeking at least $75,000 in damages.
I have suffered, my family has suffered.
The case heads to court tomorrow, and as the I-Team first reported in February, Bell is still licensed to practice law in Louisiana. And that's not all.
That's one of the loopholes in some of the laws.
The Louisiana State Employees Retirement System, or LASERS, confirms that Bell is collecting more than $5,400 every month, or about $65,000 a year, from the state. Keep in mind, Bell served 5 years on the bench, and when he retired in 2010, he was 40 years old. His age and years of service do not qualify him to collect any type of regular retirement right now. So why is Bell receiving payments?
He wouldn't be collecting a benefit unless it was a disability.
State Representative Kevin Pearson of Slidell chairs the legislature's Retirement and Pension Committee.
It does seem, quite questionable. Did somebody work the system to get the benefit that, the maximum benefit that they were allowed somehow?
Laser says Bell is not collecting a regular retirement. Privacy laws limit what they can discuss, but officials referred the I-Team to a state statute that outlines the qualifications for collecting a disability pension. Prior to Bell's resignation, again, that was back in 2010, the Supreme Court noted that the judge had been diagnosed with bipolar disorder and a sex addiction. Its report indicated the judge had attended Alcoholics Anonymous and Sex Addict Anonymous meetings. It's not clear what role, if any, the diagnosis played regarding Bell's disability status. And legal analysts say when it comes to this case involving former Orleans Parish Juvenile Court Judge David Bell, expect the entire matter to last about a week. Reporting on your side at federal court, I'm Travers Mackle, WDSU News.